Martha, my wife, went shopping in London again. She appears to spend more time away from home each year. Even though we are no longer married, she does not want a divorce, and I cannot afford one. My software firm has expanded significantly during the last 5 years. For more than a decade, I struggled to keep our heads above water. Then the hardware caught up to my software package, and everything skyrocketed. 3 major corporations expressed interest. I only had to wait for the appropriate person to grab it. It was worth much more than $10 million currently. The majority of my inventory was in stock. Marcy worked at a law firm in Reading around 8 years ago. At the time, the remuneration was really beneficial. Even though she was merely a clerk, she worked long hours and was required to make a few overnight excursions for the firm. I was preoccupied with the new software, so I didn't think much about her absences. Until that point, everything was going well between us. Even though I was bad at keeping up with my work, our personal life was fantastic, and we spent a lot of time doing things and having fun together. After roughly a year with the legal firm, we were barely friends, and our intimacy had dwindled to nearly nothing. I didn't like what was happening. But I knew that was only a phase she was going through. Our 2 children were both in high school. They didn't actually need aid. Scott was thrilled about the Marines, while Bradley was preparing for Penn State. Marcy's supervisor on Burke's Legal was named Robert Logan. He seemed like a lovely person, and I had met him and his wife a few times at business gatherings. Marky returned home one day, unhappy, and informed me that Robert had been shot and killed by his wife. Even though she didn't say anything further, she quit shortly after and never worked again. Our marriage did not get better. She felt enraged and spoke out against things. There are certain aspects of her that I would want to claim were nice. But I can't. I tried to avoid her as much as possible, but it was difficult. It became even worse when she discovered she was pregnant. I assumed having a baby would improve things at home, but it did not. Marcy named our new baby Glenda. She adored the girl and was constantly gushing about her. Things between us continued getting worse. As Glenda grew older, Marcy spent more time away from her house. We moved into a new house with workers since the firm was profitable. Marcy had a live-in babysitter for Glenda, so she took use of it. I never questioned her where she went or why. I merely knew there were a lot of charges. Even though I was producing money quicker than she could spend it, I was still upset. She refused to allow me talk to her or find out what had transpired between us. Of course, having separate rooms did not help. I had no idea what I did wrong, therefore I couldn't change anything. I ultimately gave up. Getting a divorce would cost me $2 million, and the new business would most likely fail. I was upset with myself for allowing things to get this far. Even though I hired my own lawyers, I couldn't see any way out. Glenda was maturing into an attractive young woman. I did everything possible to spend time with her. Even though Marcy kept us apart the majority of the time, Glenda and I were great friends while she was abroad. We told Glenda the secret, and she enjoyed it. 3rd grade was going nicely for her. I was able to attend both the PTA and staff meetings. Marcy was usually preoccupied with more pressing matters. Bradley and Scott were both quite proficient at their own. Despite my poor marriage, my children made up for it. Then I had a good day. Janet Logan had arrived at my workplace to wait for me. I was stunned since I assumed she was in prison for murdering her husband. She looked terrific for her age. Her hair was silky and shoulder length. It was a combination of gray, silver, and black. There was little makeup on her face, and her skin appeared smooth but not soft. The curve of her brows appeared natural and looked amazing on her. She appeared fierce and feminine at the same time. Janet, I'm astonished you look so nice. Thank you, Grady. I was unsure if you would remember me. It's been 8 years and I assumed no one would recognize me anymore. Would you like any coffee? She stated that black would be ideal. Janet, I am so embarrassed of myself right now. And yeah, I understand what you are going through. I don't want to say anything to make you feel awful. Please correct me if I say or do something wrong. Grady, I've been in jail for 8 years, so I'm pretty tough about it all. Don't worry about how I feel. By the way, how is Mrs. Stevens? That's not something I want to talk about. Shall we just say that things could be better? I made a request. I apologize, but this is why I came to visit you. I need to chat with you about Marcy. I'm not being cruel or furious, but I believe some things need to be resolved. I placed the coffee cup in front of her, but I sat on the chair next to my desk, instead of behind it. I was interested in what she had to say and wanted her to feel comfortable while doing so. I hit the audio button and instructed my secretary not to speak over us. "Grady, did you pay attention during the trial?" "Not at all. Even though Marcy told me what had happened, I wasn't very interested. I was busy launching the business, and she didn't want to chat much at the moment. I believe she was saddened by his passing. I suppose that is more than you would imagine. A lot of information may surprise you since it appears you had no idea what was going on. I understand why you didn't want to make me angry. I'm about to tell you some terrible stuff, if things become too challenging. Your wife was waiting in the car, and they were going to come see you after they finished with me. I had been aware of their affair for some time, and I had done. I am sorry that my poor performance as a husband contributed to your marital problems," I said. "Grady, there was more. Robert had always desired a family, but we were never able to get one. He was always complaining about how horrible I was as a wife and placing blame on me. As he handed me the divorce papers, he informed me that Marcy was expecting his kid and that she would provide him with the family he had always desired. Even as I turned around and started walking away, he continued to abuse and call me names. It wasn't enough that he was going to be divorced. He wouldn't stop making me feel like I wasn't human. It seems like he would never stop ranting at me. I finally lost it. I reached into the chest drawer, took out the pistol, and shot. I'm not sure whether I shot him. Are you claiming that my daughter Glenda is a Robertson? Glenda, Robert's daughter, is not Marcy, but I believe she thinks she is. Could you explain that? I asked. I checked myself more than once. A number of tests revealed that I was healthy. I eventually received a test result for Robert's sperm, which came back negative. I did not tell him. Also, Robert's mother's name is Glenda. When Marcy discovered she was pregnant, it appears they chose that name. What did Marcy choose as the name? I have no idea where she got it. Still, I believe you're accurate. She believes that Glenda, Robert's child, is hers. That clarifies a lot of things. Would you want more? Coffee? No, but I still need to discuss about some other topics. Are you certain you have time? We're okay. Do not become stressed about anything. That's the nice thing about being the boss when I went to prison. All of the things in the house went into storage. Robert's briefcase was included. I was going through it last week and found this. Janet handed me the original divorce papers that Marcy was going to give to me the day that Robert got shot. The papers were signed, dated, and notarized. Robert and Marcy worked for a law firm, so the terms of the divorce were very precisely spelled out. Is this still good? I asked. Janet laughed. I have no notion, I am not a lawyer. Read paragraph. She is giving me full custody of all the children. Wow. She would be furious if she realized I could get Glenda. The brothers are long gone, but she would be devastated if I took her little angel. Could I obtain this so my attorneys can review it? Grady, this is yours. It means nothing to me. I hope things go well for you. Janet handed me 2 manila envelopes. The small envelope contains the pictures that my detective took, which are very sexual in nature. I have no use for them, but maybe they will be of value to you. The large envelope contains the investigation results that my private investigator gave me, as well as some other interesting papers. You can look through them and decide what is important. Thank you. We both sat and stared at one another for a minute. She was an incredible woman, and I was grateful she came to visit me. I should get back to work now, so thank you for visiting me. I feel better now that these loose ends have been wrapped up. You don't have any employment opportunities for an ex-con, do you? My favorite lawyer, Seymour Schlamp, was ecstatic with the divorce papers that were 8 years old but had no expiration date. He couldn't wait to start and felt like a kid in a candy store. Marcy didn't ask for quantities of anything, she just wanted exact figures. For $14,000 from the savings and bank accounts. 8 years ago, that was about half of the whole, but now it's almost nothing. Everything else was the same. There was just one catch. It was the 1995 Volvo station car she owned at the time. It was sold 5 years ago. That car had to be found. The company hired Janet Logan to work in the software testing department. The job was pretty basic, but I thought she would be able to handle it. Another benefit was that I could see her often. I wished I knew Janet better because I liked her. Craig and I told Glenda and Marcy about our DNA tests, but not her. The results wouldn't come back for a few weeks, but Seymour needed that time to make sure the divorce forms were complete. I was sure that the test would prove that Glenda was mine. I found the Volvo car at State College with a little help from people I know who work at the DMV. The boy from the frat was glad to give it to me for twice what he paid for it. I had the new title with Marcy's name on it after a week. He told me that the divorce could go through as written as long as nothing was changed in the original request. We couldn't find something bad about it that made us want to change it. Even though it's been 8 years, Marcy's name is still valid because it was certified. The document was sealed. My friendship with Janet Logan and my bond with my daughter grew stronger with each passing day, and after about a month, I was finally able to persuade Janet to meet me for lunch on a day when she wasn't working. I promised her that I wouldn't do anything that would make the other workers think. We filed for divorce, and I didn't inform her that it was being handled and that she would soon be informed that it was final. Mary, my loving wife, stormed into the office in the middle of the day and the middle of the week, demanding to know what the hell was going on as she threw some official-looking papers on my desk. I believe your divorce request from 8 years ago has just been finalized. You son of a blip. You cannot do that. Everything has changed since then, and if you think I'll let you get away with it, you're insane. What's changed, dear? Just because your partner died does not imply we cannot proceed with the divorce. I agreed to all of your terms, so you have no reason to dispute. If you wish to challenge your divorce, I recommend that you hire a lawyer. In the meanwhile, I want you to obtain all of your belongings out of my house, which you provided me. I will gladly leave your house and get this piece of trash divorce notice thrown away. You will pay, and you will pay generously. Glenda and I will be gone this afternoon, and I will send someone to retrieve my belongings tomorrow. Sorry, but if you read paragraph 7, you'll see that you handed me complete custody of Glenda. Until you fix it, she is mine. Marcy was so enraged that I couldn't hear what she was saying for a moment. Her neck muscles were tight, her forehead veins were bulging out, and her lips were moving every time she spoke. I couldn't hear what she was saying for a minute. When she finally got the papers and stormed out the door, it was great to have peace and quiet. Marcy hired a lawyer to settle the divorce issues, and I was able to lean on Janet's friendly shoulder. The rest of the afternoon was spent withdrawing insurance plans, cell phones, and credit cards. When I called her, Glenda and Janet talked for a long time, but it didn't go as planned. After a few days, Seymour called. As an update, I agreed to find a middle ground, but not give up. At first, the meeting moved slowly, and most of the time was spent going over each of Marcy's requests from the divorce petition. Seymour gave us checks for the agreed-upon amounts, and we sat politely while the official complaints about how unfair the settlements were heard. Seymour didn't say anything, and she looked shocked when I moved the Volvo's keys and title across the table. Mrs. Stevens, do you mean to say that Glenda Stevens is the child of an affair you had with Robert Logan while you were married to Grady Stevens? Yes, sir. Robert Logan and I were lovers and soulmates. It never felt as bad to us as cheating on our partner. When his disaster happened, we were going to start our own. If you lied about this, you would undoubtedly have a tougher difficulty gaining control after stating the truth, but if what you say is accurate, we may have to reconsider. The court turned to Seymour. What can I obtain from you? We both sat down and gazed at one another. Grady. Are you certain you want to do this? Let's do it. My nice lawyer passed a piece of paper to Marcy's lawyer across the table. This is a story that was written about 6 weeks before Glenda Stevens was born. The report clearly shows that Robert Logan did not have any sperm. He was unable to have any children, so Mr. Logan could never have a child. That is why Janet Logan, who is fertile, could never have a child. Marky turned pale and her eyes grew big. She was getting angry again, just like she did in my. The first form examines Glenda Stevens' DNA, the second form tests Grady Stevens' DNA, and the third report compares the first two and proves beyond a doubt that Grady Stevens. Marcy remained silent for the rest of the meeting, and I forgot to say anything to her before returning to work and leaving Seymour to finish up the papers. I agreed to let Marcy have Glenda every other weekend and on 2 holidays per year that she chose. I was surprised at how cheaply I got off. If Marcy had been a better friend in the past few years, I would have been happy to share. After the breakup, I felt like a failure because I didn't know what Robert Logan had that I didn't, or what he could do for her that I couldn't. In terms of his appearance, the pictures Janet left didn't show him to be anything special. I gave Marcy photos of the shots in the report, and reports from 2 different sources showed that Robert met up with other women at a hotel while he was seeing Marcy. Marcy used to pick up Glenda every weekend at first, but as it became more difficult to explain why they were calling so frequently, she eventually stopped coming altogether. When her mother canceled, she didn't mind because Janet and I would go the extra mile to make her happy. After 6 months, she moved to Norristown to live with her sister. I'd like to know if you were prepared for the ending of today's story, or if it took an unexpected turn. I'd like to know what you think. Finally, someone bought my company, and we were now making a lot of money. Janet is overjoyed because she is pregnant for the first time in her life and will need Social Security at times, but it'll all be worthwhile in the end.